Hello everyone, I'm back. So, I've been playing a lot of Starfield the past few days, uh, and I want to talk about what I think of it. I got a bit more than 45 hours in at this point, and there's a ton of crap going around on the internet from people who I know nothing about what they're speaking of. So, we're gonna get into this. Now, the first thing I want you to keep in mind about my thoughts, I am a modder. It is what I do. I have been modding games since I was about 10 years old. I got started with World at War custom zombie maps, um, and I've been modding Skyrim specifically since early 2012 when I was about 13. So I will mod literally any game that lets me do it, even a little bit. Modding was and honestly still is the only thing that ever really mattered to me with Starfield. And I was honest to God prepared to accept a game in pre-alpha state if it meant being able to mod it the way I can mod Skyrim. So the fact that Bethesda managed to avoid completely face planting right out the gate this time is more than I personally could have hoped for. So, with that in mind, I'll give you my personal score for vanilla Starfield right now. 7.5 out of 10. If there were ground vehicles and the local maps weren't completely useless, I would go up to 8.5, but 'twas not to be. So this is not Bethesda's best launch, but it's also far from the worst. The game is relatively bug-free. I think the community patches are going to be a lot lighter this time around, which is good. It means we can focus more on making cool stuff and breathing more life into the world and less on fixing Bethesda's fuck-ups. But, moving on. Something that I often hear is that mods are a crutch for Bethesda. Now, this statement makes me feel many emotions, and none of them are really suitable for public display. So, I'll refrain from getting too hawkish about it, but to put it simply, to me, Bethesda's modding communities are the best part about their game. And it's not even close. Like, none of their games age very well, I don't think. I don't think anyone would still play Skyrim if it couldn't be modded the way it can be nowadays. And Bethesda, to their credit, has put a tremendous amount of effort into fostering those communities, to the point that we've reached the stage that said communities are now, in effect, self-sustaining, constantly evolving industries, fueled almost entirely by generosity, collaboration, and passion for a game, or a group of games. And it has made those games immortal. And watching that progress from inception to now is one of the best things I've ever been a part of. And so when I hear people take that and boil it down to just Bethesda's crutch, yeah, kindly shut up, thanks. Because a properly modded Skyrim in 2023 is probably better than any game you'd shell out money for, and we get it for free. Now, the first major thing I want to talk about is the engine. Despite what a lot of the armchair game devs in the YouTube comments sections will tell you, Creation Engine 2 is a point in the game's favor, not against it. There's an infuriating amount of misinformation that goes around about it, namely that they've been using the exact same engine since they made Morrowind in 2002. This statement, which I see everywhere, all the time, is almost entirely baseless and made up. The foundations for Creation Engine have been in place for a very, very long time. This is true. But it has always received tangible, significant upgrades with every single release, including Skyrim Special Edition, which is why you see a lot of new Skyrim mods not being ported to the original Skyrim, because the old engine just isn't as good and it can't handle it as well. It is not the same thing that Morrowind was made with, and it never was. So now that we got that out of the way, we can move to the next bit. And that next bit that people need to understand is that Creation Engine is absolutely crucial to the long-term success of these games. Creation Engine is arguably the most powerful mod tool ever made. As I said before, it is the reason that people are still playing Skyrim and Fallout 4 today. I don't believe for a second that anyone would care about those games anymore if you couldn't mod them. The first reason for this is familiarity. Bethesda has built, as I said, an enormous mod community over the years, and that mod community is used to using Creation Engine. And it has over a decade of pre-existing tool support. Much of the work for modding Starfield has already been done. We really just need Creation Engine 2 at this point, or Creation Kit 2 to come out at this point. And if Bethesda had caved to all the stupid public pressure to use a different engine, you could kiss all of that goodbye. And I do mean basically all of it, because the mod community would be starting from scratch. I've heard people say, oh, they just need to update the mods for the new engine. No, that's not how it works. They'd be starting over. You'd be remaking it from the beginning. And as a result, they would have to learn how to use a completely new engine, and the result of that would be that Starfield modders would be unable to collaborate with Fallout and Skyrim modders in any meaningful way. And this would cleave the modding community in half, and in doing so, it would risk killing both halves. The next is robustness, which might sound strange at first, but bear with me. If we go to Nexus and sort all of its games by number of mods, you'll notice that Creation Engine games hold every single one of the top 5 spots, and they hold said spots by quite large margins. Like, it's not a very close race. And if you'll notice, Starfield itself, too, is quickly rising, and the modding tools for that aren't even out yet. Seriously, it's crazy. Like, we've already got mods for mods in Starfield. There's Stormtrooper armor. You can get all that shit already, and we haven't even gotten the actual mod tools yet. The only game that even competes with the less popular Creation Engine games is Stardew Valley, which I've never played, but good on you, Stardew community. That's a lot of mods. Massive respect. But anyways, this is not a coincidence. This is because Creation Engine is very friendly to amateurs, and it is also very forgiving to the mistakes that amateurs tend to make. It is often buggy, even in an unmodified state, but it can take a ridiculous amount of abuse before it stops working entirely. So, let me start by giving you an example. Now, something I need to clarify here is that I don't actually own Skyrim Anniversary Edition, so I don't have all the stuff, and I'm finding a lot of conflicting numbers on the actual file size of the game at this point with all the Creation Club content, but I can't really check myself, because, again, I don't own it. So, but I've been told it's about 16 to 20 gigabytes. Now, if you compare this to my Skyrim, which, again, has none of the Creation Club content, and it is almost 300 gigabytes at this point, which is bigger than Call of Duty Warzone and almost twice the size of Starfield. Creation Engine in this instance is dealing with like 17 times the amount of data it was originally designed to handle, and it just does it. Like, it doesn't complain. It's really more stable than vanilla Skyrim is without any sort of bug patches. Good luck finding another engine that will just do that without any complaint. This is the other reason Creation Engine is so important. I am not exaggerating when I say that, in my eyes, and I don't think I'm alone, the day they leave Creation Engine behind just to produce an Unreal Engine 5 game that would probably still be really buggy is the day Bethesda Game Studios dies. And their refusal to cave to that pressure is one of the reasons that I still had a degree of faith in their competence even during the dark days of Fallout 76's launch. Let's be real, guys, it's 2023. There is no engine that guarantees a game isn't going to be a bug-ridden mess at launch. That's just the world we live in now. So I don't believe that switching to a new engine would have been anything other than catastrophic for Starfield's long-term health. So now you might understand why I get kind of pissed off when people insist that Creation Engine and its Starfield successor are bad and should not be used. Because those people clearly do not understand the consequences of what they're asking for. So good job, Bethesda. It's clear to me that you understand what is needed to keep your communities healthy long term, and that honestly really is my biggest takeaway from Starfield. Now that we've got that out of the way, we'll move on to the vanilla game itself. I'm not going to spend all that much time on this because I'm a tiny YouTuber, so you probably already know from experience, or you just watch someone else's review. And as I said, this is a modder's perspective, so the vanilla game is really not that much interest to me, and it never really was. But let's start with the cons that everyone knows about. It's pretty empty. Cities are, generally speaking, too small to be all that believable. There's not enough variety in the points of interest. NPCs are pretty ugly. The maps are too big for there to not be ground vehicles. The local map is useless. No atmospheric flight of any kind, etc., etc. Now, we'll move on to a couple other less discussed issues that I've personally had. First, I don't think the mountains get tall enough. I want them to be bigger. I am a Colorado native, so trust me, I know what actual mountains look like, and these aren't it. They're more foothills than mountains. Second, there aren't enough bodies of water in biomes that should have them. Third, the water graphics suck, and I'm a sucker for water graphics. Fourth, I don't like the inconsistent spray patterns of some of the weapons. Fifth, the soundtrack is pretty weak, especially compared to Skyrim. And last but not least, the fucking sun is not visible from the surface of any planet. Like, seriously, what happened there, Bethesda? I remember someone in the gameplay direct said,
I love the way that our final combination of all the new tech has come together to create some of the most beautiful sunsets and sunrises we've ever had in any of our games.
My guy, how you gonna have a sunset without the sun? Now, we'll move on to the pros. The gunplay is decent. The graphics are generally pretty good. The attention to detail in interior spaces is really good. The shipbuilding is really cool, and the ships themselves handle acceptably. There is a massive variety of well-designed creatures, the draw distance is excellent, starborn powers are fun, the combat has lots of room for build crafting, and the visual design is overall amazing. So from here on to the end of the video, we're gonna be looking forward. One of the things I keep seeing is people who are like already writing the game off. Like they think it's just over and Starfield is just gonna fade away now. This is really dumb, because even though it may arguably, even though they're not really in the same genre, their closest analogs are obviously No Man's Sky, Elite Dangerous, and Star Citizen. But really, this is still by far the best launch we've ever had for a game of this kind. I know No Man's Sky is the darling of the game industry these days, and their commitment is impressive, but I don't think most of the people playing No Man's Sky nowadays were there when the game launched. But I was. In fact, some of my oldest videos on this channel are No Man's Sky playthroughs at launch, if you want to go see for yourself. And if you compare the two games in their launch state, it's not even close. And don't even get me started on Star Citizen or Elite, okay? But all that notwithstanding, we're going to circle back to the mods, because that really is the future of this game, and because of it, Starfield is going to win in the long term. I know a lot of people don't like that. They want Starfield to fail, and they don't want a third-party community of passionate fans to hand Bethesda the last laugh. But make no mistake, people, that's what's going to happen. And no amount of petty console fanboy review bombing on Metacritic is going to stop that. Hello Games can release as many awesome free updates as they can. Cloud Imperium can burn as much of their supporters' money as they want, and Frontier can continue to neglect literally everything in their game except the Thargoids as much as they want. But none of them are going to be able to keep up with Starfield's modding community once the actual modding tool releases. And given enough time, most of their notable features will likely end up in Starfield anyways, because the mod community loves doing that. Any attempts to outcompete it will only make it stronger. If there's one thing that the Skyrim and Fallout 4 mod communities have proven, it's that there is no ceiling to what is possible, especially on PC. For any Elite players out there, let me just throw this your way as someone who has played enough of that one in particular to own a fleet carrier. I promise you, Starfield will have Elite Dangerous ships with full interiors before Elite does. Now, to be clear, disclaimer, all of this is not to shit on No Man's Sky. I like that one. They're doing good work these days. This is more targeted at all the people who are insisting that No Man's Sky and other similar games have already won and it's over, while forgetting that it took No Man's Sky the better part of a decade of continuous post-launch support to get it to the state that it's in now. I am shitting on Star Citizen and Elite a little bit, though. Get angry. But really, let me show you. You are seeing Skyrim right now. Looks great, doesn't it? But the two mods I want to highlight here are Elden Ring and Modern Combat Overhaul, or MCO for short. These mods are both directly inspired by the combat of newer RPGs, and as you can see, they are doing a shockingly good job at replicating them. This is what I mean when I say there isn't really any beating Starfield, Skyrim, or any creation engine game for that matter. If you build a bigger, better, more sophisticated game, the competing creation engine game will just slowly over time assimilate everything that makes that new game superior. It's true with Skyrim, it's true with Fallout 4, and it's gonna be true with Starfield. So, I guess that leaves us with a final takeaway for Bethesda. You guys, hurry the fuck up with Creation Kit 2. You must keep this momentum going. You have to. You cannot afford to drag your feet on this like you did with Fallout 4. I understand that it's a big thing to do, and that it takes time, but you really cannot wait 6 months again, like you did last time. So, chop chop. So, I think that covers most of the things I wanted to talk about today. Forgive me if it's a little stuttery, a little abrupt in some places. I'm not used to editing videos this heavily, so if you did enjoy it, or you maybe agree, maybe leave a like. If you want to see more videos of this level of editing, that's the incentive I'm going to need. So, there will be lots of Starfield videos once Creation Kit 2 comes out, so a little slow until then, but thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, oh wait, I already told you to like it. Oh well, see you guys later.